Hi and welcome back. So we're going to be working on the Art Advent Sketchbook, and I'm super excited that it's that time of the year again to start working in this. And this book is from Cassie, from the Cassie Projects, and she actually has a few other books just like this of the different seasons, and if you're interested in those, I'll add her website down below. And you can also head over to her channel, the Cassie Projects, if you're looking for some more inspiration. Anyways, let's go ahead and get started on our first prompt. And it says, color the circles. Add color and/or patterns to these circles. Draw on them, inside them, or outside of them. Use as much color as you can. You could turn them into bubbles, Christmas baubles, or even flowers. Have fun and do something different. So I'm going to go in with my Artistro watercolors. And for this page, the colors that I want to use are golds, reds, and greens. So the first thing that I'm going to do is color in each circle with those different colors. That way it kind of gives them time to dry in between before I go in and add the actual details. And if you're going to go in with watercolors, acrylic markers, or paint, you are going to want to use a piece of paper behind this page so that way it doesn't accidentally bleed onto the other one. Anyway, so I came across this picture on Pinterest that I'm going to use as a reference for this ornament right here. Now I'm not sure if it was a mock-up or AI, but I did like the picture because it went with my colors. So I'm going to use this fan brush right here. And I'm going to create a bunch of different pine trees. So to create the trees, you're going to use your fan brush and dab a vertical line. And then you're going to take the edge of the fan brush and kind of create like a Z shape going back and forth. And you're just going to continue to do that until your trees fill out. And this layer is going to need to dry, so I am just going to move on to the next ornament. And since this one is so little, I'm just going to keep it simple and use my gold gel pen to create some leaf shapes and add a few polka dots. And then I'm going to move on to this red ornament here, and again I'm going to use my gold gel pen to kind of tie in more of those gold colors. And I'd probably say out of all of them, this one ended up being my least favorite because I accidentally made the star a little too big. Anyways, moving on. So for this one, I'm going to use some golds and greens, and I'm also going to add some holly berry branches to it and just add a fun little design. And again, because I am using acrylic paint, I am going to let it dry a little bit before adding any highlights to these ornaments. Okay, and now that this layer is dry, I'm going to go in with a darker green and add my second row of trees. So for this ornament, I'm just going in with my gold gel pen, and I'm going to add like a nice simple design and add some snowflakes. So as I started working on the last layer of trees, I realized that I needed to paint the ground green to give more contrast. And then I decided that I liked the look of the gold acrylic paint a lot more than the watercolor. So I ended up going over all of the watercolor with acrylic paint. And I feel like it almost looks like gold foiling because it's so shiny. And I just like the way it looked a lot more. And for our final ornament, I'm going to create another snow scene. And since I need to let that dry a little bit, I'm going to finish up the details on the other ornaments and start adding in all the strings that they're hanging from. And then I'll go back and start adding in our snowman. Okay, now I'm just going to add a little bit of sparkles around the prompt. And we are officially done with this one. Here's a closer look for you. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on to our second prompt. And it says, roll the dice. And you can see that there's all these different choices that you can get. And out of all of these choices, I don't mind them too much, but I don't think I'd really want to get the dark colors. And then as far as style goes, I definitely do not want creepy. Preferably, I'd want Christmassy or impressionistic. And for characters and objects, as far as people go, I'm not the best at drawing them, but let's go ahead and roll the dice and see what my fate is. Okay, so we got pastel colors, and I actually like those colors. I just haven't made a whole lot with those. And I don't really have a lot of pastel colored art supplies, but we can always make some with acrylic paint. Now let's see what our style is. 3. So we got abstract. I've never made anything abstract, so that'll be interesting. And for our last roll, we got food. So I am going to have to take some time to come up with an idea because a couple of these things I haven't really done before. So I'm going to head on over to Google for some ideas. And based on what I'm seeing here as far as the food goes, some of them are a little bit more chaotic looking, but then you have some like this donut over here where you can tell what it is. And so I think I'm leaning more towards that kind of style of abstract. And it looks like there's like a lot of splatter paint used and mixed colors. Just like here on the Christmas trees, you can see a bunch of different colors blended together. And again, you have some very abstract pieces like this one, but I do think I'm leaning towards more of this style right here. And then I looked up cookies, and this is like the most abstract cookie I'm seeing right here, because a lot of the other ones, the cookies don't look too abstract, just the painting itself, so yeah. Now that I have an idea, I think the best thing to do is paint on a different piece of paper and then glue it into the book when I'm done. So I'm just going to quickly measure this paper and get it cut out so that way I can still see the prompt once it's all glued in. And here I have my palette mixed up already. I'm not really sure about this pink. I kind of like this one more, but we'll see. And I'm actually going to lay a piece of paper underneath this one because I'm sure it's going to get pretty messy. And I'm even going to go in with some palette knives to try to help me create that abstract look. And to start, I'm going to dab my darker pink and my lighter pink and some of my white at the top of this page. And I definitely used more white paint than I meant to, but that's all right. And then I'm going to go in with my biggest flat brush and I'm going to swipe it all down to try to create some abstract lines. And right here I accidentally made the page go crooked, so I ended up having to add some more paint and then going back over it all. But I think it kind of added to the background a little bit more by going over it a second time, so luckily for me it worked out. Anyways, now I'm going to add the flooring to this, and this particular prompt was definitely one of those you gotta trust the process moments because, believe me, looking at it, I know it is looking quite interesting, which is a nice way to put it. I actually ended up walking away for a couple days for this one because I just was not liking the way that it was looking at all. Like, I even almost didn't even want to do this prompt and just do a different one instead because I just felt really intimidated by a style that I'm not used to, but I'm glad that I continued with it because in the end I do think it turned out okay. But yeah, I just thought I would share that little story with you because I know there's a lot of people out there that say they don't really like art just because they don't feel like they're very good at it. But this just goes to show that even as artists that do art on a regular basis, that even we get intimidated with certain prompts or we make mistakes and struggle sometimes. But honestly, it's all about continuing to practice and learning how to fix those mistakes or even just learning from the first time around so then you know what to do different for the next time. And what's really great is that this day and age, there's so many different YouTube artists that you can watch and learn from as well if you feel like you're struggling with something in particular. So yeah, I feel like if you're interested in art just because you don't think you're good at it, that doesn't mean that you won't get better, and I think you should continue to try. So I don't know if this counts or not, but I thought if I added some candy canes and some little strings of popcorn that maybe that could also count as some food for this prompt. Anyways, once I go in to start working on the presents, I felt like they needed to dry a little bit before I could add some more details. So again, you'll see me jump back and forth between working on the presents and working on our little character. And the little character that I decided to draw was going to be a little bear, and I'm going to have her in a little wintry outfit to kind of go with the Christmassy theme. And to incorporate the food some more into this prompt, I'm going to have her munching on some little like gingerbread cookies and ginger snaps. And since she's eating things with the word ginger, I thought that the perfect name for her would be Ginger. So yeah, that's what her name is going to be. But if you have any suggestions, you can always drop them in the comments below. Okay, and now I'm gonna go in with my gold gel pen to add a little bit of details to this gift here. And then I also use my black Sharpie gel pen to add some sketchy outlines around everything else to continue to add that abstract look. And of course this ink doesn't dry very fast, and I wasn't thinking about it, and I ended up smearing it all over the page, but luckily I was able to just take a paper towel with some water and clean it up a little bit. And then the next problem came along, and I didn't plan very well on making sure I would have enough room for what I wrote, so I tried to clean that up, and instead I just smeared and made everything so much worse. So I had to try to repaint some of the background, and then once I got it to a point that I was okay with, I continued on with the rest of the picture. And I think in the long run, that mistake actually ended up benefiting me, because I ended up coming up with the idea of cutting out a little piece of paper and painting it brown to give it that old paper look. And then once it dries, I'm gonna roll it up and kind of make it look like a naughty or nice Christmas list. And while that's drying, I just added the rest of the details to the cookies and add some more splatter paint all around this page. And now I'm just gonna add the final touches and get the little list glued into the book. But for you, I'm going to go straight to the glamour shots. And thank you so much for joining me and allowing me to share this with you. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!